Could the Rams really get Caleb Williams? That's coming up on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley? Welcome to another edition of the Locked On Rams podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're also available over on YouTube. So join the party, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and most importantly, drop your Rams takes down below. We want all your Rams takes down below in the comment section. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, the Lakers, the Dodgers, and now I'm covering the Rams for Locked On. And as always, that man to your right is the Rams pre, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio network, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on Twitter at Travis Rogers. Now, Trav, we have a big show. People have been requesting it. We got some Caleb Williams talk today. You ready to get into it, my man?
Yeah.
Hey, this might be the topic of the season, right? This is depending on how they get off to a start. This may be the thing that we're talking about in week 4 or 5. Never mind in the middle of May, right? Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's a lot to unpack with Caleb Williams. And I think the first thing is, how good is he? Because I think you don't have to use pencil. You can use a Sharpie. Barring some catastrophic disaster, he is going to be the number 1 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. This guy is elite. This guy makes all the throws. This guy extends plays. He's creative. We're going to talk about what he does as a quarterback. I was at the UCLA USC game, and I heard "Fight On" all night long. It's still ringing in my head, all the plays he made. But first, just what do you see from him as a quarterback on the field? Do you think he's worthy of this Victor Wembanyama of the NFL level hype, Trav?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. Yes, I think that from everything that we've seen in his college career, there is very good reason to believe that he'll be a successful NFL player. Now, I'll say this once, and then we can just move past it because I don't want to speak it into existence. You never really know for sure, right? That people thought that Ryan Leaf would be good. People thought that Jamarcus Russell and guys like that would be good quarterbacks. So you're never really 100% sure, but I do think that he could be something very, very special. Yes.
Yeah, no, there's always a buzz factor. You can never rule that out. I mean, Matthew Stafford, he was a number 1 pick. He went on to win a Super Bowl. I mean, there's also the Jamarcus Russells that you talk about. I mean, Sam Bradford, before the injuries, he looked good, but you're never guaranteed with any of these number 1 quarterbacks. But just as a pure prospect, I mean, this guy has shown at this level that he is elite. Last year, 42 touchdowns, won the Heisman Trophy, finished second in the Power 5 with a 91.6 PFF grade. 4,539 yards. The big time throws, at 32 big time throws. And I think what makes him really special, I think his receiver, Jordan Addison, said it best when he said the biggest thing about Caleb Williams is when the play breaks down, there becomes a whole nother play. And that's what makes this guy so special. And it must be maddening for defensive coordinators. You think you've dialed up the right call. You think you're going to get the stop. But that's when he breaks the pocket and becomes a magician. And what I love about him, too, is he's not just trying to beat you on the ground. Yes, he can get yards on the ground. Yes, he is fast for a quarterback. But he's looking downfield to make the big play. He wants to beat you from the pocket. And also, you're wearing defensive lines out. You're getting guys tired. And that's what this guy brings. And look, this league is increasingly becoming a dual threat quarterbacks league, and he has everything you need to win and succeed at the highest level. You heard the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. You've heard some comparisons to Aaron Rodgers. But as far as just his arm talent goes, do you think that he can play that style in the NFL that you've seen him play at USC?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's what's so exciting about him, that you look at the guys who are thriving in the NFL right now. And most of them, not all of them, there's always exceptions, but most of them are guys that can do exactly what you just described, which is make something happen off script, right? That if everything goes according to plan, every NFL quarterback is going to be able to do what you're supposed to do, to deliver the ball on time. But it's what happens when it isn't on script? What happens when stuff breaks down? Can you extend it that extra second or two? Can you take off? Do you know, are you big and strong enough to withstand the pounding if in fact you do take a hit down the field? Are you smart enough to know to not take that hit, to get out of bounds, to get down onto the ground? And everything that we've seen from Caleb Williams is yes, 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 and yes to all of these questions. And he's got that little bit of X factor where it just seems that you talked about Jordan Addison. His teammates seem to really rally around him. He came in here to Los Angeles last year as a guy that had come from Oklahoma. Nobody really knew him other than he was the guy from Oklahoma and he was Lincoln Riley's guy. And very, very quickly, he kind of got the city in the palm of his hand is something very, very special, which, as you know, D-Mac, as somebody that's born and raised here in L.A., that's hard to do, to kind of capture everybody's attention right away because you can't really fake it. You just either have that charisma, that X factor, or you don't. And he certainly does. And I think that translates not just to, popularity, but to the locker room, to being able to get guys to follow you. And he seems to be able to have both of those things.
Yeah, I think that's a great point in that how he endeared himself to Los Angeles, how he did have that star power. And I think a lot of that comes with his style of play. If he's a traditional just drop back quarterback making great throws, he's going to be a star. But I think it's the oohs, the ahs that you see in the crowd when he plays. I mean, it's like he's playing with a Nerf football on recess. I mean, you're just running around there and you're trying to catch him. And the imagination that he throws, the way he can just create lanes for himself, just the off-platform throws, I mean, it's definitely just something to behold, especially when you see it in person. But I will say, if you want to kind of spot the pimple on a model type moment, sometimes that does work against him. I mean, sometimes the layup is there, but he runs out to the 3-point line and hoists the three. But I think that's what you love about him, is his ability to extend those plays. And I think maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, maybe that style of play might not work, but we've seen it. Patrick Mahomes does it all the time. He's just running back. Kyler Murray, we've seen have success. I mean, this day and age, you can have success. His size, I mean, not a lot of people talk about his size, but 6'1", 210. Any issue with his size? You think he can handle the pounding of the NFL? Because he's a big dude, strong dude.
I think he's just big enough that it's not a big deal, right? He's not Josh Allen, who's 6'4", 230 or 40 pounds and looks like a defensive tackle. He's not like that, but he's also not a guy like Kyler Murray, who's running around out there and you're holding your breath every time he gets tackled. I think he's just big enough to where his size isn't really an issue. And I like what you mentioned, D-Mac, about that, sometimes the layup is there and why do you have to shoot the three? I think this is where potentially being on a team with a coach like Sean McVay would really benefit him to understand when it's a time to make the layup, when it's a time to shoot that three, when it's a time to really kind of try to make it happen, when it's over and get out of bounds or get on the ground. I think that would come with experience. I think that would come with time. And I think that would come with good coaching. And I think that obviously Sean McVay is one of the best in the business.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic point, is that I think his style at the college level, Lincoln Riley, he's so competitive that when he breaks the pocket, he just wants to get the most yardage he can get for every single play. But he'll learn quickly that if you want to have a long career in the NFL, sometimes you got to go to that check down. Sometimes you have to take what the defense gives you.
Yeah, for sure. No, the guys that try that extra yard, if it's fourth down in the NFC Championship game, stick your face in there. If it's third down in week 6 against the Cardinals, get on the ground, punt, live to fight another day, and let's get going because, like we've seen, when the quarterback goes down, that's it. You might make it a week or two, but beyond that, you're in deep, deep trouble. And, beyond arm strength and foot speed and intelligence, the understanding of when it's over might be at the top of the list.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing I want to get your thoughts on, too, is, though, we always see this every year in the NFL. It's always the next draft. It's always the next draft that has the best quarterbacks, the superior quarterbacks. And you look at this draft with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud and some of these guys, and you say, oh, no, Caleb Williams, he's on another level. He's generational. He's superior and this and that. Do you think, if you look at his arm strength, I think he has a great arm for sure. I wouldn't say it's as freakish as a Patrick Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers. But I think when you combine all of his attributes, I definitely think he has that. But how do you think he compares to this last crop of quarterbacks that were drafted? Do you think he's on a whole nother level?
I think he's a better pro prospect. You look at guys like C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, they're terrific college quarterbacks, and that's an amazing accomplishment in and of itself. But does that trend, like Bryce Young's small, right? Like he's narrow, and it doesn't look like he's going to put on a ton of weight. We'll see. C.J. Stroud, comes from a school that doesn't crank out NFL quarterbacks at a particularly high rate. Now, you could make the same criticism of USC that they haven't had a ton of success at that position either in the NFL. Williams just looks the part. Like, if you close your eyes and think about him on an NFL field with his size and the way that he plays, it fits the modern game very, very well. So I really don't worry about those things too much. You know, like we talked about off the top, never say never, but this feels like a very, very likely successful NFL player. He runs, he moves, he's smart, he comes from a good program. It feels like a winning combination.
Yeah, definitely. You see it. I feel like he's as close to a lock as we've seen. I think he's a tier 1 right up there with Trevor Lawrence, maybe just a little bit better than some of the guys we've seen over the last 5-10 years. But you do bring up that USC quarterback curse that they talk about. I wouldn't say it's a red flag. Maybe it's a little bit of a yellow flag. I mean, Rodney Peete, we know the robo-arm Tom Marinovich. And then there's Carson Palmer, who won the Heisman Trophy. He went first overall to the Bengals, made 2 Pro Bowls with them. Then later in his career, made 1 with the Cardinals, led them to an NFC Championship game. So he's definitely the best quarterback that they've ever produced. Matt Leinart, Mark Sanchez. I will say that Mark Sanchez, even though didn't quite work out, did make it to 2 AFC Championship games. He did give us the best play in NFL history in the butt fumble. So, I mean, you have to love that. I mean, hey, the coaches, they teach you to find a hole to and run to it. And he did just that, right?
Yeah, it was a memorable event, if nothing else, for sure. No doubt.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think Caleb Williams definitely, just kind of wrapping up this first segment. Yes, I mean, all my USC friends, I mean, they tout this guy up like he is Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes reincarnated. They tell me that he can get Chick-fil-A on Sundays. I mean, they hype this guy up like no other. But I definitely think, hey, it's definitely worthwhile. He definitely has all the goods that you want to see in an elite prospect. But coming up in our second segment, how could the Rams end up with Caleb Williams? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
All right, D-Mac, let's talk a little bit about FanDuel. You can make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs. We're getting close to the end. We're almost towards the finals. And right now, new customers could get a no sweat, not only a new sweat, but a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Here's what's great about FanDuel. New promotions every single day, not every other day, not occasionally, not once a week, but every day there are great promotions that are going to get you excited about your opportunities there. It is 100% safe and secure on the app, which means just put that app on your phone. You get started. You're going to not have to worry about anything else happening, and you get paid right away. Get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. We're also available over on YouTube, so join the party. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and drop all your Rams takes down below in the comment section. So Travis, here in this second segment, the conversation is, how could the Rams end up with Caleb Williams? Now, Sports Illustrated, they wrote a few days ago, expect the Rams to endure back-to-back losing seasons after winning the Super Bowl, as they might find themselves in the race for Williams and May by Halloween. So you know where I stand in this. I want to see how this team performs early in the season. I think with a healthy Stafford, Donald, Kupp, and a healthy offensive line, hopefully this team, they get off to a good start and put together a solid season. But if they find themselves amongst some of the worst teams in the league, I mean, do you think that is the recipe for them getting Caleb Williams, or do you think it has to be an absolute just fall off the cliff, 2 or 3 wins, something in that realm?
Well, I think there's 2 different ways that they can find themselves in a position to get Caleb Williams. The first way is the most obvious way, the traditional way, and that's just be the team with the worst record, you know, the year before, and have that #1 pick organically. I don't know if the Rams are bad enough to be that, right? I mean, maybe you never know. You get off to a bad start and maybe you get some injuries along the way and it just kind of snowballs on top of itself and you find yourself in week 12 or 13 with only a win or 2. And then at that point, you're kind of making some different sorts of decisions. Now, hopefully it doesn't come to that. The other way is you find yourself in the group, like you said, of teams with kind of the worst records. Like, you know, there's that group of teams that win 2, 3, 4, 5 games, and they're all kind of lumped together. And you got to hope that the teams ahead of you don't need a quarterback, right? For instance, the Houston Texans just took a quarterback. The Carolina Panthers just took a quarterback. A team like the Chicago Bears with Fields feels like they're set up at quarterback. The interesting ones are the Arizona Cardinals. Do they decide to cut bait with a Kyler Murray at a point like that if it just hasn't happened? If they're that bad again, he may miss a good chunk of the season. They might just be that bad because they're that bad. But at least if you're close enough and the guys and the teams ahead of you are reasonably set at quarterback, you can put together a package to move up to where you want to go. And if you have the 5th pick in the draft, maybe you don't have to empty everything you've had. You can trade 1 for 5 and a couple of other things, or maybe a future first or whatever it is. But you need to be close. If you're in the middle of the pack, if you're in that situation where you're 14, 15 or something like that, then you're getting kind of in the Jared Goff spot, right? I think the Rams went from 16 to number 1. Well, we still haven't had a first-round draft pick since they did that in 2016. It's 2023. So that is a very expensive way to do it. Obviously, there were some other first-rounders with guys like Jalen Ramsey and stuff in there as well. But if you're close, it costs a lot less. So either be dreadful, which nobody wants to see, or at least be dreadful adjacent, and then it can cost you a little bit less.
Yeah, no, I think the first part of what you said is absolutely what I've been thinking about last few days. Is you look at the teams that drafted in the previous draft, the Panthers with Bryce Young, the Texans with CJ Stroud, the Bears, if they do have a terrible season, I think at that point you have to assume they will move off Justin Fields and probably go after Caleb Williams. The Indianapolis Colts, I mean, we know they're high on Anthony Richardson, but will they look to get another quarterback if he doesn't work out? I think that'd be a quick trigger on that to pull the plug on that possibility. But still, I think it could be done if you could trade up theoretically, but I also think this isn't a Jared Goff. If there are teams out there, let's say the Washington Commanders, that he's from the DC area, if he gets the number 1 pick, if they get the number 1 pick, they're going to pick Caleb Williams. I don't care if you make them a Godfather offer. So it does feel like the only way that you could truly have a realistic chance of getting Caleb Williams is if you are the worst or one of the worst teams in the league. There's a domain name for sale that's tankforcalebwilliams.com. You can get it for $500 on Craigslist. And I think that really is the only way, is if you crumble for Caleb. And if you look at some of these models, I mean, they're projected to win around 5 games. I'm more optimistic than that. Like I said, I have to see it till I believe it. Sean McVay, if this team wants to win, if they stay healthy, I find it hard to believe that they are going to be among some of the worst teams in the league. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people out there. But still, I think, you know, like you said, I love what you said when we did the episode about tanking. It's not like the Rams are going to go out there and take a knee on every player, anything like that. But if they did get Caleb Williams or were in the mix to get him, it just means that things didn't work out this season, right? Yeah,
and it means that, you know, positioning yourself to take a player like that means you have to make some long-term decisions, right? That you have these 2 different timelines that are going on at the same time. There's the timeline of the 2023 season, which, you know, in a perfect world, you go 17-0, you win the Super Bowl and everybody's happy. That's not happening this year. So the timeline becomes, what do you do beyond this season? And what does that timeline look like? And if you got to really take it on the chin in the short period, and again, like you mentioned, that doesn't mean you quit. Guys don't want to go to jail. It means that the roster is constructed in a certain way that it's very unlikely that you win a lot of games. That maybe if the ball bounces the air quote the wrong way a few times, then you find yourself there organically. But look, we're going to know. We're going to know by week 5 or 6 what this team looks like and how many wins they have. And then what happens from that point forward, I think will be pretty obvious.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're going to know early on what this season's going to look like. And look, yes, it's not tanking. They are not going to tank. I'm going to say that again. But there is something called creative roster management that we saw. And look what happened in 2020 when the Jets, they beat the Rams and the Browns in December that year. It cost them Trevor Lawrence. Look what happened with the Colts when they snapped their 2-game winning streak to end the year, and that got them Andrew Luck. So there are ways that you can try to put yourself in a better position if you're late in the year and you are close, but that's not what this Rams team is going to do. I still feel like they feel confident that they're going to win a lot of games. But, and also too, to your point, I think Arizona, they're the dangerous team. I think feels like they're done with Kyler Murray.
They got 2 picks, I want to say, and they get is it Chicago's pick as well, or Houston's pick? That's what it is. That they'll have their own pick, and Arizona's going to be bad. Houston's going to be bad. So those are two high picks likely. And now, they can not only take a quarterback, but they don't need your fourth or fifth pick. If they're ahead of you to begin with, and the Texans are as bad as we think that they're going to be, Arizona could have 2 picks in the top 5 or 10 easily.
Yeah, no, easily get 2 picks in the top 10 right there. And they definitely would go after him. Makes a lot of sense on the West Coast. Go after the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers in that tough division. But yeah, just to be clear, I'm not saying that any player should go into a game and give less. They are not going to benefit from that. But hey, if you get a franchise quarterback, that is a long-lasting impact on your franchise. But I also will say, how did Tank for Tua work out, right? Tank for Tua, hashtag Tank for Tua. How did that work out? So there is
and they got the wrong guy. And, keep in mind before we go to the next segment that Justin Herbert is better. That not only did the Dolphins have the Dolphins and the Chargers right next to each other in the draft, 2 quarterbacks available in that draft right there. They picked the wrong guy. You do all your homework, you make all the best decisions, you have all the right intentions, and sometimes you just don't get the right guy because the Chargers got the right guy by accident.
Yeah, no, for sure. And who knows? Maybe Drake May is this year's Herbert and Caleb Williams ends up in that situation. But you just never know. But yeah, the bottom line here is the only way I think the Rams do get there is if they have a terrible season. I don't foresee a world where you have that same luck where you have the 15th pick and you trade all the way to 1. I think Caleb Williams is a superior prospect, a superior possibility than Jared Goff. So I just don't see it happening. You would have to crumble for Caleb. And if that happens organically, that happens organically. And then you make the best out of that situation. But in the final segment here on Lockdown, we're going to talk about, is Caleb Williams the perfect fit for LA? Does LA need a superstar quarterback in the future for this franchise? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And a special shout out to our everydayers who rock with us every day here on Locked On Rams. Also find us over on YouTube. Now, Travis, in the final segment, we're going to get into this. Is he the perfect fit for LA? Do the Rams need a superstar quarterback that's from USC to really take this franchise to a whole nother level, try to get some more market space here in Los Angeles? I mean, do you think he's the perfect fit for LA?
Yes, is the short answer, Doug. I really can't imagine a better scenario because, look, here's the reality of where the Rams are in Los Angeles and what they've done in the 7 years that they've been back here. The fact of the matter is, of the 7 seasons they've had, 5 of them have been somewhere between pretty good and excellent. They've had 2 Super Bowl appearances in the 7 years since they've come back. 2 Super Bowl appearances in 7 years is bonkers good, okay? They have one of the great defensive players, not only in the history of the organization, in the history of the league, in Aaron Donald. You have an incredibly popular player in Cooper Kupp. You built a stadium that is the gold standard for stadiums across the world, and people are excited to walk into that building every single day. They have not missed a step since returning to LA 7 years ago. They got a long way to go. And the only way you can do it is with time. And the way that you can maybe slowly, or I say, pick up the pace a little bit on that is by having somebody that is you're already familiar with that comes in, that's your guy. Matthew Stafford, for better or for worse, he came from Detroit. Aaron Donald, for better or for worse, came from St. Louis. That these are guys that were from other places that came here that aren't our guys. Think about Kobe Bryant. Think about Magic Johnson. Think about Clayton Kershaw. Think about these guys that were, hey, that's a young guy that I kind of know. Wow, look, that's really special. And all of a sudden you really start to believe him as your own guy. Caleb Williams has an opportunity to do that. Some kid that's 9 years old right now who goes to his first Rams game and sees Caleb Williams out there doing his thing. That guy's a Rams fan for life. You've got him, and you've got his and all his buddies and everything else. It takes time. The Rams have gotten an A+ on doing what they've done since they've come back. But the Caleb Williams type of player, the local guy made good, the star player, it's like putting everything on steroids and speeding it up. I think it's the perfect fit, and that's why I think it's so interesting that they have a chance to get him potentially.
Yeah, no, I think that makes so much sense what you said. I love how you bring up Kobe Bryant. And what I've always said is Tim Duncan worked in San Antonio. He wouldn't have worked as well in Los Angeles because
No.
it's not just about winning in Los Angeles. It's how you win. It's the superstars you have. Kobe Bryant worked in Los Angeles because he was the guy that the superstars came to see. He was the star of stars. And if you get someone like Caleb Williams, you're going to see a guy that finally is in the top 5 of jersey sales. Like you said, this is a YouTube star, a Twitter star, an Instagram star that kids flock to. He's generational and he transcends just being a great football player. And I definitely think the Rams could benefit from that. Absolutely. I think that the USC ties is really the cherry on top when it's all said and done. So yeah, I definitely think that this Rams franchise, when you look at the phases that this franchise is in, come back to LA. You get to a Super Bowl, you don't win. You get back to the Super Bowl, you win in your house, in Rams house. And now I think the next step is getting those homegrown guys that you can just grow with and live with and see for 10, 12, 15 years. And like you said, you've been Clayton Kershaw and all those names. So yeah, I agree 100%. I kind of wish that there was a way that we didn't have to suffer through a terrible season just to have a chance at him. Nice. I mean, I want Caleb Williams on the Rams more than Ralphie wanted the Red Ryder BB gun in Christmas Story. Okay, I want him.
Shoot your eye out.
Yeah, shoot my eye out. And look, I'm a UCLA guy. I mean, I hate saying that, but I definitely agree with you 100% that a guy like this makes so much sense for the Rams. But yeah, I think you would see less 49ers jerseys, right? You would see less of the road team taking over. It might take 3 or 4 years, but he has the potential to do just that.
Yeah, he does. I would maybe push back a little bit. I think it's going to take longer than 3 or 4. I think it's going to take 15 or 20. It takes a long time. It's that kid right now that's 10, that's a Niner fan, and he's going to be 30, still living here. He's still a Niner fan. It's the kid that's 2 right now that you got to get. He's the guy that's got to be your guy. It takes a long, long time. You can do it. And and they have not missed it. If they were taking a test and this was the midterm, they got a 4.0, right? They're doing it exactly right, but you just have to finish the test. And all you can do is wait and hope that you pick the right guy. Because right now, the face of the Rams franchise as the Los Angeles Rams is Sean McVay. Sean McVay is the face of the franchise, and he's a good one. He's handsome. He's telegenic. He's got charisma. He's really good at what he does. He's got great energy. Like you say, he's a guy that other famous people are drawn to, which is important in this town. But he's the coach, right? And now he can be here for a long time, and hopefully he will be. But the coach as the face of the franchise is a tricky one, right? Because they typically don't stay the Bill Belichick's and Pete Carroll's of the world, Andy Reid's of the world. They don't come around all that often. Now, I think he's got a chance to be one of those guys, but if you had a player, I think that's an even better option.
Yeah, no, good point. I mean, Sean McVay, young coach, definitely the face of the franchise. Caleb Williams actually said he did want to play with a young coach. So there's somebody said there. And also, McVay actually worked with Caleb Williams back in D.C. a few years back. So there is a little connection there. I'm trying to find any way. But also, I know we'll wrap this up here. To get to your point about the 15 years, hey, look, you got 90,000 people at USC games. Those are Saturdays. Just go to the Rams game on Sunday. That's 70,000. If every USC fan becomes a Rams fan overnight, there you go.
It would help
49ers
for sure.
Fans at SoFi.
Yeah, no, look, I look forward to that day. I hope I'm still doing what I'm doing by the time that we get there. But I'm also I'm a bit of a pragmatist in this, and I know that it takes some time. And the good news is they're doing it right. The bad news is it just takes time.
Absolutely. So, yeah, let us know down below in the comment section. We want all of your Caleb Williams takes down below. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. And that man to your right is Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on Twitter at Travis Rogers. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, drop those comments down below. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams House?